Hello friends, do you want to make a Jetboil gimbal? Here's how. It's real easy. Alrighty, so here it is set up on my boat in a rail blazer mount. As you can see, there is a little bit of stuff in my storage unit boat here at the moment because we've just got a sailboat, so that's pretty exciting. So subscribe if you want to see a little bit of sailing content from some rookies. Anyway, back on task. Alright, so I'll just talk you through the basic components of what we got on there. This system's really good because it's just centered around mostly bought parts and you just have to do a little bit of construction yourself. It took me about maybe an hour and it was just out of bits and pieces that I had laying around. What am I going to show you? Oh yeah, I'll just show you why it's so versatile. So, what we're dealing with here is a rail blazer mount. Rail blazer ball mount, and that's just a cheap one off AliExpress. And then we've got the actual arm here, which is a 150mm version, and this little guy in here, this is the secret sauce. So that is a power knob, a power fishing knob. Get in there nice and close, which has got ball bearings in it, and it's quite strong obviously because you're meant to be hanging off that when you're winding in your fish, so it will take the weight, and it has been taking the weight. The only thing I'm yet to do is getting in there with a little bit of Loctite so that it doesn't unravel itself, because you really need to Loctite those in after you've put the screw in. I've just left mine off at the moment so I can dismantle this and show you. This yoke section here and the mount are the only bits you need to make, because all of the rest of the system you've bought. Also, it's really good because a lot of people have these Jetboils mounted in their companionways, and you also want to have a little bit of electronics in your companionway. You can also use a mount like this on the same arm, and then you've got a bit of versatility there. You can also capture these mounts as well. These are just rail mounts, and again, if you've got little rails as you climb in and out of your boat, going up on deck, you can use one of these rail mounts to pop on there and then do the same thing so it pivots out of the way, so you've got adequate ventilation where you put it in the companionway there. Alright guys, so I'll pull it apart and show you the individual bits. First little bit I'll show you here is how it mounts onto the pot. As you can see there, I've just used one of those sail ties, but you can probably use anything that's elastic in this little area here. I used a sail tie so I can pull it on and off easy, and I could adjust it. It's pretty big and bulky, but there's plenty of other options you could use there, and you could also use a zip tie if you weren't pulling it on and off. And then you can see here, these are just 3/16 stainless steel screws here, and a wing nut attachment on each one of them. I might put a little glob of glue on the ends moving forward, just so that they don't slowly unwind their way off. All this was a basic strip of aluminium, and then I bent it back on an angle like that on itself so it would facilitate the sail tie there. So the only other real modification I'd make here is I might put a little bit of heat shrink across there, or maybe some silicone tubing, just because it does conduct a bit of heat through that aluminium. It's not unbearable, but you do notice that it's hot, so that would be something that I would think about changing in that little region if I was going forward. It was pretty quickly made, and I was just riffing, but it ended up working out pretty well. I'll show you the other bits. There it is with the little power knob attached for 1.5 inch ball. I could have gone probably a bit skinnier on this stuff, but again, this is just what I had laying around. You can see it's just an old bit that I've had laying around. I haven't bought anything special, but you can go to your Lowe's or your Bunnings, whatever's around, and you could purchase just a little bit of craft aluminium. And at the end of this video, I'll just quickly go through and do a rough measure out to give you an idea of the dimensions if you want to go ahead and build one of these yourself. I've just cut those off on an angle just to make it look a bit more aesthetically pleasing. This is just a hole drilled there and then cut down with the hacksaw on a reasonably steep angle like that, so that the screws on the side of a Jetboil just rock away in there. Okay, moving this way. So again, nothing too special about the construction of that. You can see here, one of my big regrets is I didn't really take the time to get the correct size drill bit for the power knob that went on there. So was a little bit loose in there. So hopefully you can see there that I've got 1, 2, 3 bigger 316 stainless steel washers, and then they enable the factory screw that comes on the power knob with its little washer to pull down tight in that housing and make it all snug. First measurement, we'll just look at the gap here in between the actual pot and the yoke, and that is 43 millimeters gap, just to allow a little bit of swing room. And I didn't do anything fancy. The easiest way to make this was just a right angle bend in the vise with a hammer. And to get this in the center, I just measured diagonal, diagonal, and then where it met in the center, that's where I punched the hole. And just, that's the power knob with around 38 or 39. It's over 1.5 inch. Okay, so here we are here, 116 millimeter outside diameter there. Looks like it's just over 3 mil to the main yoke. The length of the arm there is just on around 135 centimeters, or 135 millimeters there. This hole was roughly 14 or 15 millimeters down on the 50 mil diameter aluminium. And that hole from the end, roughly 55. Alright, so there's a good look at that one. So I've just bent that around by hand because it's not very thick at all. So let's just give that one a quick measure. So the thickness of this aluminium here was around 1.2 mil, and for width it was around 16 mil. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same size as this stuff, but it just gives you an idea. If I had my time again, guys, and I was buying these and I just didn't find them scrounging around, I would try and go for a bit of a lower profile head on the screw than that. And we've got the threaded section here is about 16 mil, and the screw's about that. I hope that's enough information for you guys to hopefully build your own in a similar design. So if you found that helpful, give me a thumbs up, maybe even think about subscribing. Alright, thanks so much guys, and see you next video. Bye!